I, I don't know. I'm back again with another movie review. My name is Josh. Thanks for checking out the channel. And if you click the thumbnail, you're probably here to hear about Rebel Moon, Part 1, A Child of Fire. And this was a relatively, definitely very highly anticipated movie from my point of view. Coming from the mind of Zack Snyder predominantly, I'm pretty sure he co-wrote this originally, and you guys did help fill in some of the gaps on this. This was originally going to be a Star Wars or included in the Star Wars universe, but that never came to fruition, so ended up adapting it a bit and making it his own Netflix mini-series trilogy movies. I don't know how many there's supposed to be. I know there's at least 2, because the other one's coming out in April, I believe. And I'm not very sure that I'm even going to check that one out. I'm not going to lie to you. This one I was very excited for based off of a couple things. One, I did grow up a big Star Wars fan. So the original Star Wars, I grew up watching those over and over again, playing with all the toys. Even when the prequels came out, I liked bits and pieces of those. They weren't exactly my favorite, but that's okay. And then more Star Wars kept coming out, and we've had some really cool thing. Mandalorian, I think, is about the only thing I can think of that was cool. Rogue One, I also really loved. But generally speaking, the quality of Star Wars, in my eyes, has kind of definitely gone downhill, especially as of lately, with all the shows and everything else that's been happening. Like, I've lost pretty much all interest in Star Wars. So I was really excited to see something that was maybe a little bit more of a serious version of Star Wars, or, a little bit different interpretation, much like I kind of think and have been told multiple times Dune is kind of a more grown-up version of Star Wars. So I was curious to see what this one was going to be, because it also had Zack Snyder behind it, and Zack Snyder is a person that I've really enjoyed. I would say the bulk majority of his movies, probably 75 to 85% of his movies, I've enjoyed thoroughly. Some of them are some of my top movies, like 300 is one of my favorite movies, and I've seen it so many times, and there's a cluster of other just really good movies. Visually, everything is super cool looking. The mood, the tone, it's normally pretty somber, it's very heroic-esque. Even again, the DCEU movies that he did, I like more than probably the average person. Again, like Batman vs. Superman, I enjoyed. I like the director's cut more. Man of Steel, I really liked. And then Justice League, I really enjoyed the director cut of that one as well. And I also heard right before I actually watched this one that he'd already come out and said that the director's cut is an extended version of this one that basically makes it a different movie, which is like maybe the worst thing to say possibly ever before the movie comes out. You're just straight up saying, well, that one's not my version. My version's even better. So maybe we'll get that one day. And I hope he's right, but I'm also agitated, and I don't know what he could have had in the director's cut that would make this one much more enjoyable for me, honestly, except for perhaps the violence. If you've seen anything about this movie, you could see that it's a big war saga thing. Again, it's supposed to be kind of a Star Wars movie. And the story of itself is fairly interesting. It starts as a very kind of small, localized thing. It kind of grows into something bigger about a rebellion. And I can't remember if they called it the Empire or something from the home world. It's basically, it is the same story of Star Wars or the Empire and expanding and everything like that. Then, bits and pieces are very cool. They establish the home world, this farmland, and it's, you get some of the players in there, and it's cool. Like, again, the actors in this one, there's a bunch of really good big actors, and they just don't know what to do with them, or they give them very little to do, I guess, because I really enjoy most of the people that are in this movie. Ed Skrein, I do think, is a really good bad guy. He was a good bad guy in Deadpool. He's a good bad guy in this one. Ray Fisher, I enjoyed him as Cyborg. I'm a huge Charlie Hunnam fan from Sons of Anarchy and Pacific Rim. Like, all over the place, there's just person after person. They really got a lot of talent in this one. Djimon Hounsou is another one that was in the original Gladiator, and there's shades of that in this one, of course. But you have all of those, and you also have Sofia Boutella, who I remember from actually Kingsman, who was awesome in that one and in the new Mummy movie, and she did well in this one as well with what she was given. But they're just not giving anything. This portion of the movie is basically just setting up, I'm assuming, most of the battle that's going to happen in the second one, except for you lose a good bit of characters in this one. I'm not saying who or what happens, but again, you don't have time to really get to know any of the characters. They very hastily throw them all together. You're supposed to care about all these. You do have some cool characters. Again, Djimon Hounsou, the general, you have this cool lore about him and everything. Nothing happens. He's wasted completely. Maybe there'll be more that will come out in the second movie, but if that's the case, I don't know that they've earned my attention to go see the second one, because this one was completely lackluster as far as even the action, which baffles me. Because again, Zack Snyder's known for visuals and cool action. And yes, one of his telltale things is a lot of slow-mo during some of the action scenes. I'm sure you can remember back to 300 or various other honestly any of his other movies, there's going to be some slow-mo, really cool-looking stuff. There's a lot of the slow-mo stuff in this one. It is not cool-looking. There's not a lot of cool action going on around it. It's like the choreography is not great. The fight sequences, there's a lot of the actors are standing in the background kind of doing that, just waiting for their turn to fight the person that they're supposed to fight. And maybe John Wick has, ruined us a little bit of accepting of things like that. But I see that, I'm just like, oh God, this seems just kind of lazy when I've seen work that the same guy has done that was drastically better. I just don't know. In the visuals, honestly, there were a couple things that looked really cool. It was kind of stunning. Like you could pause it and be like a cool background or a cool picture you get put up on the wall. But it was also sometimes you're like, this looks like a straight up TV show. This almost reminded me. I even stopped and was like, during one of the boss fight scenes almost, because there's like boss fight scenes. It was like, this could have been Hercules. The old show that was on like Sci-Fi Channel or was like TNT. Either way, it was on like one of those old channels a long time ago, but it just looked not good. The editing and the camera work, like where they put these things, it looked like they were trying to hide not having a lot of budget, which doesn't make a lot of sense because I'm pretty sure Netflix gave them a ton of money to make this movie. So I don't know. The story itself was kind of cool. There was some interesting stuff there, even though there's a person in this movie that lays out a huge plot hole in my eyes as well, because I was thinking the same thing as they were doing it and just completely gets disregarded, and then just it wasn't good. I was really excited for this one. The trailers were really cool. There's some cool looking creatures. There's some cool looking different species. Again, the lore of what's going on is pretty cool. Everything else is just not there. The characters seem very contrived. And it's like the bad guys, they're bad guys. They make them really bad, really quickly. You're just like, these are the pieces of crap. And I get that. You want that so that you hate them and you want the good guys to beat them up. But I think one thing that we've seen is sometimes the best villains are the ones that, again, that think they're doing right, but you can also somewhat associate with, or you can see their reasoning. These bad guys, there's no reasoning there. They're just evil. They're like the mustache twirling evil people, and you're just like, okay, I get it. Let's get on with this. Let's fight. Let's do this. And then that doesn't really happen. Or when the fights do happen, they're just not good. And again, you just have so much talent in this movie that they're not really giving anything to do. And then the movie's over. The violence is also a really weird thing. Like, I don't know what they wanted this to be. I don't know if they wanted this to actually be like a good, hard Star Wars movie for adults, much like Dune, very violent when it needs to be, but a really cool story. But in this one, they just kind of edited out all of the violent parts and left in the heavy story stuff. So they were kind of trying to make it for kids, even though it's on Netflix, which doesn't make sense because I don't think there was really blood in this one. There's a lot of like phaser blasts and stuff like that. But other than that, I don't really know. It was very odd. Like, it's trying to be family friendly, but then it's not family friendly at all. And then it's just not enough to really intrigue the adult, I don't think. So for me, this might actually be my biggest disappointment of the year. And I'm going to be having some lists come up pretty quickly as far as the best and worst. But if I had to go with one that, as an absolute movie, it's not the worst thing. Again, visually, it looks cool sometimes. You got some good actors in it. But just the expectation that I had versus what we got was so drastically different. So this would probably be top on that list. But overall, I mean, I'd have to check my ranking list for the year, but right now this one's falling at probably like a 5.5 for me. Again, it's better than like a lot of other movies that I've seen this year, but I've seen some real crap boxes this year, and I'm trying to think of if I would just rewatch this one, and I could imagine maybe rewatching it, or at least rewatching parts of it, or having it on in the background while I'm doing something else, maybe. But also when the second one comes out, am I going to watch it? Probably, so I can do a more complete review of this, and maybe I'll eat my words. Maybe they set up everything for the second one, and the second one's going to cure everything that happened in the first one or didn't happen, but I really doubt it. Really doubt it. So, yeah, I'm going to go with a solid 5.25. That's what I'm going to go with right now, okay? Out of 10. And if you have Netflix, it's free on there, so just go check it out if you want to, but I would recommend a multitude of other things on Netflix. Let me know what you guys thought. And don't forget, like, share, subscribe. Go to hit that subscribe button if you would. That'd be fantastic. And as always, you're awesome. Peace out.